welcome to another episode of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah, and this is a podcast all about crochet, a little bit of sewing and knitting, and generally living the yarniest life possible in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. Hello, how are you? It has been 3 weeks since I last podcasted. It feels like forever. I fully intended on podcasting last week, but life got in the way. Namely, our air conditioner died and had to be replaced, and it was full of drama. So I will talk about that at the end of the podcast if you care to hear what has been going on. But for this podcast, you guys are going to have to buckle up because I have a lot of stuff to show you. I have 7 finished projects. I have 3 works in progress. I have some designs. I have some acquisitions. So this may take a while. I don't like going more than 2 weeks without recording a podcast. And I would say in the year and a half that I've been podcasting, this is the 3rd time that I've gone more than 2 weeks without podcasting. And I don't like it. I don't like being away from you. So I have so much to show you, so much to talk about. We should jump right in. First, some very important announcements. If you were waiting for the pattern for this shawl, it's upside down. I should have had this planned out. This shawl, pretend that didn't happen. It is now live on Ravelry. This is the Sanibel Chevron shawl, and it is my own design. It just went live on Ravelry last week. As you can see, it has all of the texture on this side, and on this side, it's smooth. So I made this out of Barocco cotton DK. You could make this out of any kind of yarn, really. As long as it's a DK weight, you could even make it out of worsted weight. It's just going to affect how much yarn you use. Now, this is a completely different construction than a normal shawl. This shawl is made from the bottom up, and then you fill in the chevron up top. So you can actually wear this around your neck, which this is my preferred way of wearing shawls, kind of like a triangle, but I actually really like wearing it around my shoulders. Because of the way that the chevron fills in, I like to roll it up. It's almost like a shawl collar, and then pin it underneath, and I have a shrug to wear. So I love this pattern. I'm so excited. My testers did such a fabulous job testing this pattern. It's quite an involved pattern. This is what it looks like. That's me. You can thank my husband for the fantastic photography because I would not be able to get these shots. So what I have done is written out the pattern, and then for where you fill in the chevron, it actually has abbreviated version of instructions and written out row by row. So if you are a person who likes everything written out for you, that is in this pattern. And if you are a person who likes it to be pared down, like just tell me to repeat how many times and how many stitches are going to decrease, that is included as well. I will also show you what is included here is stitch and row counters, so no matter where you are in the pattern, you know what row you are supposed to be on and how many stitches you are supposed to have per that row. And I also have included a photo tutorial on how to work in the 3rd loop, because you will be working in the 3rd loop for this stitch, as well as a particular stitch at the end of each row that you will need to do so that it keeps its chevron's shape. So this pattern is live now on Ravelry. I am super, super excited about it. It is the 3rd pattern that I have released on Ravelry. So if you have been waiting for it, it is live. I will leave a link to it directly down below in the drop down so you can go and purchase this pattern. Now, I will say, I love a free pattern as much as the next person. However, this is quite an involved pattern. It took me quite a while to make, and as I have said many times on the podcast, I don't have any ads on this channel, and at this time I am not planning on adding any ads. The way that I support this podcast is my designs. So if you would like to support this podcast, if you enjoy watching every 2 weeks and you would like to support the podcast in any way, you can go purchase the pattern, and then you will actually get something. It won't be you just send money. That would be crazy. So you can actually just purchase the pattern. It's $4. I will tell you this, I don't know how many hours this took me to make. I would guess 30 because I ripped it out like so many times, which I believe I talked about in a previous episode called Frog Island, how many times I ripped this out. However, once it was done, then I wrote up the pattern. Writing up the pattern itself took me about 5 hours. I had to rework some of the math, and then of course this pattern has been tested, and I want to just say a huge thank you to every person who tested this pattern. You guys did such a fabulous job. You can change colors however you want in this shawl, and the color stripings, etc., that they chose is just beautiful. So thank you so much if you tested it. And then I had this pattern tech edited, which means that she went through line by line and checked all of my math, and the pattern is clean. There shouldn't be any spelling errors or typos, etc. So tech editing for this pattern was, well, I think it was like $60 something, because it took quite a while, because when you write out instructions line by line, you have to check every line, of course. So if you have purchased my Key Largo lace wrap pattern, then you paid for the tech editing for the Sanibel Chevron shawl. So thank you so much. So this pattern is tech edited. I want it to be professional quality that I give to you. Not that I won't ever have a free pattern, but you know, it was a lot of work. So I hope that you enjoy this pattern, and I am honestly shocked, because I love this shawl, I really do, but when I talked about it originally on the podcast, you all were so excited about it, and I was a little surprised because it's a different kind of a shawl shape. It is a triangle, but it's also flat on each edge, and then it goes into a point in the middle. So it's not small, it uses quite a bit of yarn, and it's worked from the bottom up. It's not necessarily a super fast make, because you are working in the third loop, you're working with extended stitches, and that's what gives you this texture on one side. But so many people contacted me and said, oh, I love it. And I think maybe that's because you can wear it as a shrug too. I don't know, but it's a little hot to be wearing this today, even though this is made out of cotton. I am warm, and I just got home from working out, so I'm like even more warm. You see this? These red cheeks? That's because I worked out this morning. Anyways, that was a tangent. So the Sanibel Chevron shawl is available on Ravelry, and you can go check it out. Second major announcement. It is already September, the end of the first week in September, and it completely snuck up on me. I know that some of you have been waiting, hoping that I would run another crochet along, specifically the September shawl along that we had last year, a repeat. And I honestly was planning on doing that, but I don't know how it's already September. I couldn't podcast last week, and I basically missed it. So what we are going to do is another cal entirely, in which you can absolutely make a shawl if you want. We are going to do a cal that I've wanted to do for quite some time, and I'm pretty excited about it. I am calling it the Nerd Along. So you can use the hashtag Nerd Along, which I will put down below. It starts immediately, so grab your yarn, grab a project, and it will go until Thanksgiving. Maybe Black Friday, I haven't decided, because I know a lot of people have time off at Thanksgiving, so if you're rushing to finish a project, maybe I'll give you a couple of extra days. It'll be from now until Thanksgiving. You can make anything. You can make a hat, you can make a shawl, a garment, anything you want, as long as it is fiber related. So that is the only rule, is it does need to be fiber related. So no sewing, although I would love for people to sew things. It's not specifically the point of this. I feel like that would be a little easier, because it's really easy to get nerdy fabric and make a bag. So it has to be fiber related. So spinning, weaving, I guess cross stitch, because that's fiber related. Crochet, knitting, tatting, anything you can make with fiber, yarn, or thread as an embroidery thread, you can enter into this crochet along. Whips are allowed as long as they're not like almost done. Like don't have like one row left and then enter it, because that would be crazy. And how you are going to know if you can enter this for the cal is you just need to be able to tell me how it's nerdy, and I will give you full creative license. When I say tell me, just convince me that it belongs in a nerd along, okay? So if you love Thor, and you can find a project that reminds you of Thor, or the yarn is reminding you of Thor, or etc., or you worked on it while you were watching Thor, counts. It counts, okay? If you are not into comic books at all, and you are into math, and you make a pie shawl, totally counts. If you make a shawl that is inspired by history, like the War of the Roses somehow inspire you to make a garment, and you can, as long as you have a reason, something that you are nerdy about. So like if you're super nerdy about gardening and you make a garden flower blanket, totally counts. Pick something that you are really passionate about, and as long as you can match your project to what you are passionate about, what you're nerdy about, as long as you have an explanation, enter it, okay? I promise you, as long as you put an explanation, you will be golden. I am not trying to exclude anyone. I just think it will be really fun to see what inspires your projects. And if you have a project that's already on the go and you don't know if it's nerdy, find something. Find something that makes it nerdy and then enter it into the cal, okay? I want you guys to double dip, triple dip, enter it into as many cals as you want. If Halloween is your favorite holiday of all time and you're making a Halloween themed project, if you can explain why you're super passionate and nerdy about Halloween, enter it, okay? Any projects that you're working on for other cals, enter it as long as you have an explanation. So I will put up those Ravelry threads immediately, a FO thread and a chatter thread. So go ahead and go join the Cozy Cottage Crochet Ravelry group if you have not already, and start telling me what you're working on. I have a lot of things planned for this, but my whip pile is currently overwhelming me entirely, so we'll see how many I get made. But that will be going from right now, when you watch this video, like September 8th, I think. Is today the 8th? Maybe today's the 7th because it's Friday. But when this goes live, it'll be the 8th until Thanksgiving. So you have plenty of time if you want to make a garment or a blanket, etc. So go ahead, I'm super excited. And tell me your thoughts about this if you like this cal, because I am really excited about it. There will be prizes. I have a pattern prize for knitters specifically. I will be making some bags. Hopefully. I hopefully will be making a bag or two as a prize. If you would like to donate a prize to the cal, just shoot me an email at thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com, and I would be happy to do that. Oh, I should say, I didn't even mention this at the beginning of the episode. If you are looking for me on the interwebs, you can find me as the Cozy Cottage Crochet on Instagram and Facebook. Everything I post to Instagram gets posted to Facebook, and I interact on both platforms, but those are the best places to find me in between episodes. And if you have anything related to the podcast specifically that you want to talk about, questions, comments, concerns, please email me. That is the best way to get a hold of me. My email is thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. Okay, are you guys ready for the amount of finished objects that I have to show you? I don't know if I've ever had this many on an episode. Probably not. I have several that I'm really happy with, one that's a complete fail, and a couple of designs to show you as well. So I'm just gonna grab the one that's closest to me, and we are gonna jump right in. If you have a beverage, grab it and take a sip. Buckle up, y'all. It's gonna be a wild ride. The first thing I have to show you is I tested a pattern. It is living in this super cute, it's like a plastic drawstring bag that Melody from the Melody Crochet Podcast gifted to me. It is living in this bag because I took it to the beach and it was like rainy, and we didn't actually end up staying at the beach because red tide, it like never hits the county that I live in, but the day that we went to the beach, it hit the beach. And if you don't know what red tide is, basically the temperature is too hot in the Gulf of Mexico next to Florida, and it causes like this overgrowth of algae on the surface of the water, which is red, which is why it's called red tide, because the waves look red. And what it does is it sucks all the air out of the top layer of the water, and then like fish start dying, and it like is dangerous to dogs and dangerous to humans. So we didn't actually end up staying at the beach very long, but it's in this bag because this is a perfect beach bag, and I always shove my beach projects in here. So thank you, Melody. This is a super useful project bag. What is living in here is the Killmonger cowl, which is a pattern by Stephanie Rice of the Tatted Tatter podcast. Hi, Stephanie. I miss your face. I got to meet up with her in Vegas, and it was fabulous. This pattern is not released yet, but it will be soon. I tested this pattern for her. I generally do not do pattern tests because I am terrible at deadlines, but I knew I had the perfect yarn for this. And I also, my whip pile was like, I couldn't even look at it. There was just so, and I was designing 2 projects at that time, and my brain, I just needed something calming, repetitive, and this was perfect for that. So as you can see, it's got like a panel here, and then it's got puff stitches. And I finished mine. So the yarn that I used for this is some yarn that I've had in stash for a little while. It is Himalaya Perlina yarn, which is a sport weight yarn. It is 52% cotton, 48% acrylic, and you get 317 yards per 100 grams. I have made 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th project, I think, that I have made out of this yarn. I got this yarn quite a while ago at Tuesday morning, and I bought like everything that they had, and I have never seen it before or since. So I don't know if you can still get a hold of this yarn. I've been wanting to do something with it because I really love this yarn, but I just didn't have the perfect pattern. So I had one ball and like a little bit left of this bright peach color, which is blowing out a little bit. It's pretty much the same color as my shirt. And then I had 1.5 balls left of this gray, because that's what I made all the other projects out of. And I used, I don't know, 1/2 ball of the gray and 1.5 balls of the peach. Now I doubled it, so her pattern has these 4 sections, but they're only a certain length. I wanted it to be longer, so I doubled the length of each section for my pattern test. So basically you work flat and then you seam it. You start on like the gray section, which has this really pretty stitch pattern, and then you go into your puffs, which I have never really liked making puff stitches before. This project has given me an entirely new appreciation for them. I always thought they were kind of tedious and would take forever, but they really don't. Like, I flew through this. I had this whole thing completed in like 4 days. So it's basically like an infinity scarf the way I did it, because it's double the length, but I wanted it to be long enough for me to wear twice around my neck. I think this will be super warm and cozy for the winter time. I really, really like this pattern. So when it is released, I will definitely let you guys know, because it's really, not only is it easy, it's calming. And I feel like that's really awesome in a crochet pattern, because we don't crochet to be stressed out, right? Now sometimes a pattern is challenging and we need that mental stimulation, right? But oh, this is exactly what I needed. I worked on this 3 weeks ago. So right after I recorded the last podcast is when I worked on this. I flew through it, and I was really sad when it was done. And I was like, maybe I should have tripled the length, but I don't think I would have enough yarn. So she made hers in a fingering weight wool yarn, and I made mine in a 50-50 cotton acrylic blend because I live in Florida and I want to do a stash diving. So I'm just thrilled with how this turned out. We'll see how long I can wear this before it gets too hot. So that's finished object number 1. Let me grab the next one. You should see, I have like a little coffee table that this is sitting on, and there's stuff from here all the way around. So much stuff I have to talk about with you guys. So the next thing I will talk about is I finished a pair of socks. This is my fourth pair of socks, I think. I use Knit Picks Felici. This is the colorway Sonora Sunset. I had 2 balls of it, and I made shorty socks, so I basically used half of each ball. I might have used a little bit more than 50 grams to make these, but I haven't weighed it yet. And here's my socks. Now I haven't weaved in the ends, which I thought that I had, and I pulled them out to podcast, and I was like, oh, there's still ends in there, so I don't know what happened with that. But here they are. They match almost perfectly. The only thing is, if you can see that the heel is almost completely in red here, and then here it's like half red and then a little bit pink. I think maybe I made these a little bit shorter, but they seem to fit, so I don't know what happened. Maybe the striping, I think they would be the same, I don't know. This is where I was last time. I had not quite started the increases for the heel. This is the Sockmatician's Toe Up sock recipe. It's the only sock pattern I've ever used. And I love it, love it, love it. I love toe up socks. So it does have like gusset increases and a heel flap. And then I did a 1x1 rib just to see if I like that. I have not worn these yet. They haven't been washed. But the heel takes the longest for me. So I did all of this and then I did the cuff. So these socks are finished. I'm very excited. And now I can use this lovely llama corn stitch marker. It's too hot. It's too hot, you guys. It's September in Florida. I can't deal. I would love it if it would cool down so that I could actually wear some of the stuff I am making. So I'm gonna start, I've already started on another pair of socks, which I'll talk about in the works in progress section, but these are done and I really love them. Pink and blue, like my faves, obviously. So these are perfect for me and I can't wait to wash them and wear them. Knit Picks Felici is machine washable and dryable, and I cannot be bothered to hand wash things generally, especially socks. So perfect. The next finished object I have is also knitting. I made a hat. Now, as you all know, I have to make a bunch of hats, which I have started on. This is not one of those hats, but it is a hat I needed to make as a gift. And the pattern that I used is called, well, I guess it's a free pattern, so I don't really need to cover it up. It's called the Nice and Knit Beanie, and it's got these decreases on top. It's like a skull cap. So it's a one-page pattern. I found it super easy. The yarn that I used was Lion Brand Jeans yarn in the colorway Stovepipe, which is a black, it's like a heathered black and gray. This took, I don't know, 2 nights of like barely working on it. It's so small. It's so easy to make a beanie when you don't have any like excess ease or anything like that. Like this is just made to fit on a head. You can't really see you can kind of see the decreases because it's black yarn, but I made it for someone who only likes skull cap beanies. He doesn't like large beanies, and I can't post about this on Instagram because I know he follows me on Instagram, but I definitely know he doesn't watch the podcast. I'm still not going to say who it is just in case, but yeah, so this is a gift. And I'm done with it way sooner, but because this is a smaller hat, I wanted to go ahead and make this before I start on the larger hats that I need to make, like 10 of. So this is just, it was a super quick project. I recommend the pattern. It was great, and it's living in this lovely bag. I'm a viewer of this podcast. Thank you so much. I love this bag. It's perfect hat size. And honestly, I loved knitting a hat with this jeans yarn. I have made a sweater out of the jeans yarn, and it's so soft and so nice. It was such a pleasure to knit a hat with this yarn. It's super soft. I haven't not even like washed this or blocked it. I don't think it needs it. It's so soft, and like the drape on it is wonderful. I don't know what size needles I used. I can't tell you because this was like 2 weeks ago. Probably like a 7 or an 8. I think I used a smaller needle for the brim and a 1 size up for the hat, but you could just go on whatever the pattern tells you. So it didn't take me that long. I messed up one of the decrease rows, but you can't tell because it's black yarn. I was not going to rip out. So 1 hat down, 10 more to go. The next finished object is a Christmas stocking. This is actually a commission. Someone who I know at the church that I work at asked me to make this for their new grandbaby. And it is a pattern. It's this one. Now I think this is beautiful, but they wanted this one. It's called the Jingle Jangle Stocking. That you can't really tell from the photo, but this is actually really thin. Like circumference wise, it's like this big around. you can barely get your hand in there. So I had to do some finagling with the math and the stitches for this pattern, and now it's huge, but I would rather it be too big than too small to fit anything in. And I apologize for any sounds that you're about to hear because there are bells on this stocking. Because it is the Jingle Jangle stocking, so it has bells all the way around. I'll try not to shake it too much. So this is the stocking. As you can see, it's quite large, but I did work a little bit of the brim in the regular size, and it was literally like this skinny. Like you can barely get your hand in there. So I times it by a half. It's got a super cute toe. This is Vanish Choice in red and white, and then this is a Red Heart Super Saver in green that I had in my stash. I have most colors in acrylic, just hanging out for such a time as this. You can see, so this cuff was actually the most annoying part of the whole thing because there wasn't really a way to carry the yarn up. So I had to weave in ends, 2 ends for every single one of these sections. Now I could have carried the yarn, but it really messed with the stretch of the cuff, and it also looked terrible. So I bit the bullet. I weaved in all the ends. I sewed his name on, which is Paxton. I know it's probably hard to tell with the lighting the way it is. And then it has this little border on the bottom, and I have these little tiny bells that I got for 99 cents at Joann's. And they're all the way around. So, also, I lined it, which you can't really see, with a plaid Christmas fabric. It's a good thing that this lining is a lining on the inside of the stocking because I messed it up. I thought that I could just lay this on the fabric and kind of trace around it, leaving a little bit for a seam allowance, and then just sew it up and then sew the lining in. But I did not take into account that this is very stretchy. And when I was sewing it, by the way, my sewing machine does not like sewing through worsted weight crochet fabric. It complained so much. I guess this is the sewing segment for this week because I did sew a little bit. It didn't reach all the way around, so I had to splice in like a little, right here. I had to splice in a strip of fabric on this side that goes all the way down to here because the lining wasn't wide enough. Like you could clearly tell that it was smaller than the stocking. So one of the reasons I wanted to line it is because crochet has holes. Now this is a pretty tight fabric, but once you put stuff in it, it's gonna stretch out, especially if you put any heavy stuff, and I imagine he's gonna have this stocking for quite some time. So I didn't want it to stretch out. I didn't want stuff to poke through. And also just structurally, it's gonna help the stocking to have this lining because whatever you put in it is going to sit on the lining. It's not gonna sit on the crochet. So this is not, I wouldn't make this for myself. I don't think. It's a little busy, but when they saw it, we were looking at all different patterns online, and he was like, oh, definitely that one. She's gonna love it. So I'm happy with it. I think it's really cute, and I can't wait to give it to them. I'm gonna give it to them on Sunday. I was supposed to give it to them last Sunday, but a fiasco happened. Not with the stocking, with life that prevented me. So, Christmas stocking. This is a paid for pattern. You can get it on Ravelry. It's called the Jingle Jangle stocking. But I got this set of this from Annie's Crochet. Normally I like to get all of my patterns on Ravelry, but I don't know why I bought it from Annie's, but it's a PDF. I do really, really like this one. And I don't know if it's focusing very well, but this is a cable pattern. I mean, if anyone wants me to make a stocking, I totally want to make this one because that is super cute. How many is that? I don't even know. I guess we should talk about the fail because I do have a completed finished object that I do not like. And it makes me sad that I don't like it because I really wanted to like it. It's made out of this Premier Everyday Deborah Norville yarn. It's 100% acrylic in the colorway Blue Heather, which I really like the color of this yarn, and I also really like Premier Everyday yarn. It does fuzz up a little bit, but it's so soft. pretty much every time I make a hat, I make it out of this yarn because I love it. So I had a bunch of these, and the pattern I was using is a free pattern from Yarnspirations called the Adult Crochet V-Neck Cardigan. And I know I shouldn't have too many complaints because this is a free pattern. However, I did not like it, and y'all know I'm gonna be completely honest with you. If I love something, I will tell you. I'm not gonna recommend something to you just because someone gives it to me. I'm not gonna recommend something to you just because I think it's nice. No. If I love something, it's because I truly love it, and I will tell you. And if I don't like something, I'm gonna be honest about it. And I really honestly cannot recommend this pattern. They say this is an easy pattern. I don't think it's, the stitch itself is easy, but it's a little hard to keep track of where you are in the pattern. I didn't have too much trouble because I would say I'm an intermediate crocheter. But if you're gonna market this as an easy pattern, you probably need to have some more instructions. One of the main issues I have is, as you can see, we have a version 1 and a version 2. Okay, 2 versions of this cardigan. Now, down here, we have version 1, version 2, how many balls of yarn you need. But it's all the same. So if you're making 1 or 2, you need the same amount of yarn. Over here, you have bust measurements. Right here and right here. 2 different sets of bust measurements. But they do not tell you which one is related to version 1 and which one is related to version 2. So, what, you're just supposed to guess? I don't know. They also tell you gauge 13 stitches and 11 rows in 4 inches in pattern. Okay, that's fine. They don't tell you what the stitch pattern is. And unless you're reading carefully through the pattern, you are not going to figure out the stitch pattern until after you get to the ribbing, past the ribbing on the back piece, which is where they have you start. So if you want to test gauge, you have to go dig and find out what the pattern is. I think that's lazy pattern writing. Also, here, when you do the button band and like sleeves and stuff, they have a her version and a his version. Okay, I don't understand that. And also on the schematic, they have a her version and a his version. And obviously the his version is a little bit larger, but they do not tell you which of these is the her version and which of these is the his version. Like, keep your terminology correct. Like, all the way through the pattern. Please be consistent. Because if I wanted to make the his version, which has the buttons on a different side, you can't really tell which one's which, especially because these cardigans are both modeled by 2 women. So I don't know. I really don't recommend the pattern. So if you're trying it, good luck to you. I did not have a great time. It is finished. It's been blocked and washed. And it makes me sad that it does not fit because I love the yarn. It's super soft. It's like super drapey. This would be the perfect cozy winter cardigan, but it doesn't fit, and I will show you why. I got gauge. I am always very careful about doing a gauge swatch for garments because you want them to fit, right? You don't want to spend all this time working on something that doesn't fit. I'm going to stand up and show you why. So the back piece ends right here. This is my hip bone, so that's a perfect place for the back piece to end. Back piece is a good size. The front piece is this wide, and this is how wide it's supposed to be. But as you can see, it does not meet in the middle. Now, I suppose I could wear it just open like this, but that's not the point of this cardigan, and they show it buttoned up on the model. It has 5 buttonholes, but like, even if I could get this to button, I mean, I'm sure I could get it to button, but it would look ridiculous. Like, look at those gaps. Also, 5 buttonholes I don't think is enough for the size of this cardigan. Like, these 2 panels do not equal the back panel. So there's no way that it would work. Like, even if, like, I would have had to adjust the entire pattern to make these wider so that they would fit. Like, maybe make them for the next size up or something. And this is even with a border all the way around of 5 single crochets. So I don't know what they were thinking in the pattern. There is no way that this works as a buttoned up cardigan. Also, the sleeves. Maybe I could have gotten away with this cardigan if I had seamed up these pieces and then started top down sleeves in the round and tried it on as I went. That might have worked, but the way that this is seamed, the sleeve, there's like a sleeve cap, so it goes in, and then it's like a weird, really strange seaming technique. But there is a ton of extra material here. Like, look at this. That's crazy. And I mean, I like a loose sleeve as much as the next person, but that is a lot. That's a lot of fabric, and it fits here. So it's not like it's supposed to be loose all the way down. It would look better if it was loose all the way down. And they're too short. Now, you could say, okay, it's going right to my wrist bone, but if I move at all, it's like up here, and I do not like that. I want my sweaters to be, sleeves to be this long. So maybe I could have modified the sleeves, but even so, this would not have fit correctly. And I kind of had a feeling that it wasn't gonna fit, and I should have listened to that intuition instead of continuing and making the whole thing, because now I'm not gonna wear it. Like, I promise you I'm not gonna wear it. I could rip out the sleeves and redo them, but I'm not happy with the overall fit of the entire thing. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just gonna chalk it up to a learning experience. And yeah, I mean, it looks okay, but the sleeves are too short, and it's just, I don't know. It doesn't make me feel good when I wear it, and if it's not gonna make you feel good, you shouldn't wear it. You're worth having clothes that fit you and make you feel awesome. And I love the color, and if this fit me, if it was a different pattern maybe, I would probably wear this constantly. Like, this would be my go-to cardigan, but I just don't like it at all. And it's not anything against seamed cardigans. I've made seamed cardigans and sweaters before and liked them. So I think it's just this pattern. Or maybe it's just me. So, yes, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I may gift it to someone who is skinny with large arms. If I can find someone like that, or I may actually, calm down, I may actually cut this and make like a bag out of it or something. I know, cut it, crazy, but I could sew it up and secure the stitches. Like, maybe I could just turn this back piece into like a bag or something. Or maybe I don't do any of that and I donate it. It'll fit someone, somewhere. Just not like a normal sized person with normal sized body and arms. That is a fail. Sometimes you have them in crochet. Sometimes you have them in life. It's okay. You just have to keep going and make something that brings you joy. It has inspired me to seriously look at my whip pile, which is stressing me out. There's too many whips. I haven't done it yet, of course, but I am a little inspired to go in and see if there's stuff in there that I really don't want to make. The reason that I haven't touched the project is because I really don't truly want to make it. It's not making me happy. So if there's some of that, and I know there's at least one or two in there that are not making me happy, I'm going to frog. And because life's too short, right? We only have so much time to make things. Why are we gonna waste it on stuff that doesn't make us happy? And I should have stopped making this once I got through the first front panel and I had that feeling. I should have quit. But I kept going, and it's a fail. But that's okay, because I have tons of other finished objects. In fact, I have more to show you. I know, we're still not out of finished objects. This section of finished objects I'm going to call designs, because all I have left to show you are my designs. The first two you saw last time, but they didn't have their ends weaved in, and they weren't blocked or anything. And they were living in this beautiful bag with a button that says Happiness is Crochet that Rebecca gifted to me. I love this bag. It's one of my go-tos. And it is my Falling Ivy shawl. They have been blocked, washed, had their ends woven in. I have taken photos of them, and the pattern has been out to testers. In fact, 4 of my testers are already done making this pattern. So the next time I podcast, which will be in 2 weeks, this pattern will be released. Fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong. I'm gonna get it out for tech editing this week. And at that same time, Sheep Happens Yarn is going to launch the kits, so you can actually make this exact shawl in this exact color. And I love this yarn. It's exciting to me because it's my first collaboration with an indie dyer, but also I'm just thrilled to be working with the yarn. This orange one's finished too. I like this one better. I know probably most people would like the green one better because orange is super loud, but this totally fits my personality. So we have, this is called the Falling Ivy Shawl. I can't remember if I said that. This is made in 100% merino DK, and it's from the lovely, lovely Leah of Sheep Happens Yarn. I love this yarn. It is so soft, so squishy. I have already used my leftover green on another project, which I will show you in a second. And it frogs amazingly well. I know this because I pulled out the beginning of this shawl like 5 times in the green, and it didn't fuzz up, it didn't split. It was like brand new yarn, and it's super soft. I am pretty sensitive to wool. It does not make me itch at all. I can't wait to wear this. If only it would get a little bit cold here. I know I'm still like super jealous of you guys who are like, oh yeah, it's cold, it's September, it's fall, it's pumpkin spice latte season. No, it's like 90 degrees here. So anyways, it is a semicircle, so it is made to just stay. It should not fall off unless you're like wildly bouncing around and jumping up and down. It should just stay here because it's made to be in a circle around your neck. So you won't have to use any shawl pins, anything like that. And these are the little leaves, which I don't have the pattern to show you because I have to make a few edits, but there is a photo tutorial on how to do this in the pattern. It's an upside down crocodile stitch. So all you need to know to do this pattern is single crochet, and I will walk you through the rest. It's not hard. There's only 2 rows of these leaves. You can do it, okay? So I'm really, really excited about these. And next podcast, this pattern will be released and I'll be talking about it. But wait, there's more. There's always more. I have one more design to show you. This is something I have been working on this week specifically. I have made 2 versions, and I'm so excited. You will remember in the last episode, I think, that or maybe the episode before, I talked about the lovely, lovely Sin City knit shop that I went to while I was in Vegas. And the owner of that shop dyes yarn to sell in the shop. She gave me 1 cake of worsted weight yarn in her double down colorway. This is the card. It is worsted weight, 225 yards. It's 100% superwash merino. And she asked me to design a 1 skein pattern with this yarn. This is the Sin City Knit Shop card. Debbie is the owner. She's the one who dyed this yarn. And I did. And if you have a skein of worsted weight yarn, I would say this is a thin worsted. You could get away with using a DK, because I did. For the second one, it's not a super plump worsted yarn, but oh man, if you have 225 yards, you can use all of it and not have any leftovers. This is how much I had left. What is that, like a yard maybe of yarn? This is a new pattern, which will be released at the beginning of October, I'm hoping. Maybe like the 2nd week. It is called the Mirage because it is 2 things in one. So I thought that would be a really fun name. Also, the Mirage is the hotel that I stayed at with my husband when we were in Vegas. And this is Vegas yarn. So I really wanted it to be a Vegas pattern. I love her yarn. And someone, when I posted about this on Instagram, said that it looks like little rosebuds. And I could not agree more. And so basically you start with ribbing. You have a textured section. This uses one particular stitch that I've always wanted to use in a project like this. And then you have a crab stitch border. And for those of you who don't know, crab stitch is reverse single crochet. And then you have these 2 pom-poms, and this is how you use up the rest of your yarn. You divide it into 2 equal balls and make pom-poms. So you will say, what is this exactly? Well, it is a cowl and also a ponytail hat. So you can totally wear it like this as a cowl, which I definitely will be doing because this is my favorite. But it's actually, the fabric is sturdy enough because of the stitch I've used that if you're in a really cold climate and you want this to stay, which I'm not gonna talk through it, you probably won't be able to hear me, but if you want this to stay up over your face, it will, unless you use a super soft drapey yarn. So, and you could just tie it a little bit tighter, it'll stay. Cover your nose and mouth. But it fits just perfectly. And so I have written exactly out in the pattern how to make one of these, this exact one, but also more of a recipe. So it's not one that requires on specific stitches. You need a specific multiple of stitches so that the border will work, but you could make this for a child, you could make this larger, smaller, it doesn't matter. It will work. So let me show you the hat part. All you have to do is cinch it up and tie it at the top with your 2 pom-poms, and you will have a hat. So here's the hat. It's just slightly slouchy, not super slouchy, but if you could keep going with this hat if you wanted it to be more slouchy. You just need more rows right here before you start the border. And there's a hole where you cinch it up where your ponytail can come out if you have a ponytail. I clearly don't have a ponytail, but you can have a ponytail hat. If you have large hair, if you have braids, it will fit in this hat because it's super stretchy. So this is the Mirage hat. I am in love with this yarn. It's so soft. It smells amazing. Legitimately, I don't want to wash this. I don't want to wash it and block it because it'll take away some of the smell. It's like herbal essence shampoo. It's the best. So you have a hat, right? 2 pom-poms. And the pom-poms are what keeps the ties that you weave through from disappearing back into the cowl. Now, you could just tie a knot or something if you don't want to make pom-poms, but who doesn't love pom-poms? World pomination is what I say. So, and then if you want to turn it back into a cowl, all you have to do is untie it and pull the strings back. Oh, what am I doing? I'm getting all tangled up. There. Pull the strings back. So you knit it in the, or you knit it. This is not knitting. You crochet it in the round. It does have a seam, but from far away you can like barely see it. Like this is the seam right here. So if you get up really close, you can see the seam. But especially if you use a busy pattern, you're not gonna be able to see it at all. So this is number 1, Mirage ponytail hat cowl. But I also used all of my leftover green yarn from Sheep Happens. I had this much left. That's what I'm saying. When this uses an entire ball, you're not gonna have any left. I have even less left of this, I don't know what, than this one. So I wanted to show how it worked up in a solid color. This is what it looks like. And can you guys see why I adore this green yarn? Look at this beautiful tonal. Oh, I love it. Love it so much. And it's stretchy, so it's exactly the same. Worked flat. I mean, not worked flat. Worked in the round. Perfect cowl to keep you warm with its pom-poms. And then if you want it to be a hat, all you have to do is cinch it up and tie a little bow. And I really, really like this green one too. I can't even find the seam on this. I was looking for the seam to put it in the back. There it is. You can hardly tell in the green yarn. So if you have, you may not, I mean, I know she sells this yarn in her store and on her website, but if you don't have access to this yarn and you have a DK weight yarn or a light worsted yarn or even a regular worsted yarn, you're just gonna have to measure a little bit. You can make this. And I made this in one day. One day, the second one. I would say like a couple hours. If you're a fast crocheter, maybe a little more. And I can't wait. I have already written up the pattern for this actually, the actual pattern part. I do need to take photos still, and I need to do some edits and figure out if I'm gonna include like a row counter. I don't really think you need a row counter for this hat because you're just doing the same thing over and over, but people do seem to like those, so maybe I'll include it. So yeah, you get 2 pom-poms, ponytail hat. It's super, super cute, and I hope you guys like this. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm gonna leave it on for the moment. It's gonna make me too warm, but as long as I can last. Let's leave it on, shall we? Okay, are you ready to talk about some works in progress? Can you believe it's been this long that I've been talking and I still am in finished objects? I only have a couple of works in progress. Thank goodness. I mean, I have more, but I haven't been working on them. One of them is a hat. I am using Deborah Norville Everyday Premier Yarn in the color Charcoal Heather. I have 8 balls of this because this is the color I am making the 10 hats that I need to make out of. And these are gonna be like regular hats, not skull caps. So what I have done is the ribbing and just a couple rows of stockinette. That's it so far. I have been doing for the ribbing the Norwegian Pearl, which somebody recommended to me on this channel that I check it out, and I did check it out, and it's fantastic. Arnie and Carlos has a tutorial on how to do this, but basically, for those of you who only crochet and you don't knit, when you knit, you keep the yarn behind your project, just like when you're crocheting. When you purl, the yarn is usually in front of your project, so you have to keep, on a rib, when you're doing ribbing, you have to keep switching where the yarn is. However, if you're doing a Norwegian purl, you actually keep the yarn in the back the whole time. So it makes the ribbing go by much faster. This is just a 2x2, so 2 knit stitches and 2 purl stitches. I am not really using a pattern for this. I just cast on, using a long tail cast on, 88 stitches. And then I did 4 inches of knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. And then I'm gonna do like 6 inches maybe of just plain stockinette in the round. And then that way it can either be super slouchy or it can be folded over brim to make it fit better, and then I'll do decreases. I don't really know how I'm gonna do the decreases. I'll probably do some Googling because I haven't done that without using a pattern before, but I'm sure it's fine. So this is hat number 1. You're gonna be seeing a lot of these, 10 of them in fact, over the next few months. If I make one every 2 weeks, I'll have them done by the end of the year, which is when I need to have them done. So I need to get on it. I have many, many of these to make. The second work in progress is the socks. So as soon as I cast off those shorty socks, I immediately cast on another pair and got through the toe, because that's a hard part for me. It's not hard like I can't do it, it's just annoying because I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. And I cast it on using this yarn, which I do not know the colorway of this yarn. I believe it's like a Premier sock yarn. It looks like that to me. And in the ball, when I saw this originally, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make this as a gift for someone. I know someone who would like these colors. But when it's working up, it looks more green on screen than it is. Like in real life, this is more of like a peachy background pink with like random flecks of blue and green. So it's not that it's not beautiful. I just don't think the person I was gonna make it for, it's not really their style with the big stripe and the little stripe. So what I am going to do is try a new heel. And if you knit socks, you will know what this means. This is the Fish Lips Kicks heel pattern. So I have been doing a heel flap and gusset, which the Sockmatician's toe up sock recipe tells you how to do, and it's amazing and it fits really well, but it takes forever and I dread doing it every time. I just want to go around and around in stockinette for as long as possible. So the Fish Lips Kiss heel is like, you just do this little part. So what you have to do is like make a cutout of your foot and then find out where your ankle bone is, and that's when you start the heel, when the sock gets to here. on a toe up. So this was the pattern. This pattern was a lovely gift from Alice, who is a viewer of this podcast. Thank you so much, Alice. And I've had it for like a month now, or maybe a little longer, but I had already done a heel flap and gusset on the other pair of socks, so I couldn't do a different heel. And then, so I'm gonna try it. I got a ways to go in the round in stockinette before I get to the heel, but the pattern is only $1, I think, online. So if you wanna try it, like totally try it. And it has a photo tutorial on how to do the heel. So I think that I'll be able to do it with no problem. We'll see, fingers crossed. So I have a foot. I have my sock bag, which was a gift from Claudia. This is my only sock bag. It probably will be my only ever sock bag until I wear it out. Because every time I see it, it makes me so happy with its little popsicles, and I think about Claudia and how special she is. Love you, Claudia. So that's work in progress number 2. And then I have one more, which is living in a tote bag. Just a plain canvas tote. But I have this little pin that says best crocheter ever, and it came in like the get your yarn wishes granted. Somebody shoved it in with a little package they sent me, which is super cute. My blue cardigan was living in here, so when it vacated, I shoved the yarn for this in here. And this is, I am using Red Heart Soft in the colorway Berry and the colorway Grape. And what I am doing is making another version of my Bellatrix shawl in solid colors so that you guys can see. Now I know that I made a fingering weight version in the highly speckled yarns from Moon Tower Dye Works, which you guys seem to love a lot, and I loved it a lot too. It's probably my favorite thing I've ever made, one of them at least. But I wanted to make it in a solid color so you could see how it looked. I will say, so like this is the right side, and it's all short rows. So in a solid color, you can really see where the short rows join, and on the wrong side, what you get is like right here and right here are these little bubbles where you join the short rows. So that's why I said it works best in a really highly variegated or speckled yarn, because that will completely hide those. But I mean, I still think this is gonna be great, especially in purple and pink. I love it. And somebody mentioned to me that this would make a really great tree skirt, like a Christmas tree skirt, and I completely agree, because you could just, like, I'm only gonna go until it's flat all the way across, but you could just keep going all the way around and seam it up, and it will have a hole in the middle, like a little hole. So it would make a perfect Christmas tree skirt. And look at this donut stitch marker, favorite. So that is Bellatrix number 2. Hopefully I will make some progress on that this week upcoming, because if I can get that done and have a sort out of my whips, I feel like I will be in a better mental place, because there's so many things that I want to make, and I feel like my whips are just overwhelming me. So I have been in a really finishing mood the last few weeks, and I know most of the projects that I showed you had not seen before, but I finished them. And sometimes you need, especially if you've been working on like a large project, you just need something quick to like give you a boost, to be like, oh yes, I got this. I can actually finish things. So let's talk acquisitions. I have just a couple of things to show you. One is, I went to Joann's last night and bought the mini clover pom-pom makers. I have the 2 larger sizes, but for this hat, I needed this one, the smaller one, because I knew I didn't have enough yarn to make a fluffy big pom-pom, and also I didn't want 2 giant pom-poms. I felt like that was too much, especially if you're wearing it as a cowl. So these come in a set, these 2, and they were $7, but I had a 40% off coupon. So they were $4. I'm happy. So now I have a complete collection of clover pom-pom makers. If you don't have pom-pom makers, oh my gosh, invest in these. They will make making pom-poms so much easier. So much easier. It is worth the money, especially if you only pay $4 for them. 2 other I have two pattern acquisitions. One is this beautiful knit hat. It is called the Santiam, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, Santiam Slouch. It's by Kelly Martin, who is Kelly and etc. on Instagram. She has been a longtime viewer of this podcast. She makes fabulous knitted garments and she crochets as well. And also I just love watching all of her stories on Instagram. She's like one of my favorite Instagram people ever, okay? So she designed this hat and she gifted me a copy and said, just in case you ever get into color work. And I read through the pattern and I was like, oh man, all of this is Greek to me, but someday, because I think that is gorgeous, especially with that fluffy pom-pom. Let me see if there's another picture in here. Someday I will make this pattern. That's just a picture of like the back of it. So it's beautiful. And she also gifted an extra copy for a prize for the Nerd Along Cow, which I'm super excited about. So if you have, it will be for knitters only. I'm not going to gift this pattern to a crocheter because you will need, this isn't necessarily a beginner pattern. You need to have some skills, which clearly are beyond my skills. But you need to know how to do color work, two-stranded, etc. So if you have a knitting finished object in the Ravelry group, by the end of the cow, you will be placed in a drawing for this beautiful hat. Thank you so much, Kelly. You're my fave. And if you don't follow her, you need to go follow her. She has a hilarious Instagram account, and she's the best. The second pattern acquisition I have is one that I purchased, and I was super excited. I've been waiting for this pattern to come out, and it finally has been released. And it is the Puppy Love Shawl. And let me zoom in so you can see a picture. Hopefully that's focusing. It is by Kalisha of the Quirky Monday Craft Cast. This is a pattern that she has been working on for quite some time. And it is a triangle shawl, but it has crochet brioche in it. Amazing. I definitely want to make this. I do need to have a sort out of my whips first because, like I said, I'm stressed out by my whips. But I bought it like the day she released it because I am so excited to make it. I've actually never done anything with crochet brioche before, even though I am planning on making the Rapture Shawl by Rosina of Zines and Roger as well. Hi, Rosina. But I think this will be my first foray into it, the Puppy Love Shawl. And it's in worsted weight yarn, so I think it'll be easier for me to like figure out what I'm doing. And I just want to show you this picture. Let's see if I can do this without like showing you the pattern. Look at, this is Kiva. This is Kiva. And this is, gosh, what is her name? I'm so sorry, Kalisha. I want to say Jacoby, but I know that's not right, but sometimes you call her that, don't you? I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, if you don't watch the Quirky Monday Craft Cast, first of all, you need to go watch it. She posts an episode almost every single week, which is clearly better than I am doing. I love all of her segments. She makes beautiful, beautiful things. She is a pattern designer. She's also just super crafty in general. Like I pretty much only do things with yarn, and she sews, and she has a beautiful Etsy shop where she makes bags, and it's just the best. And you definitely need to make this. And I will be making this. I just need to figure out what yarn I'm going to use and get rid of a few whips before I start it. And then I have two yarn acquisitions. One of them is, well, they both came from a specific day. So right after I podcasted last time, I had a meetup in St. Pete with some beautiful people who watch this podcast. We met at Panera Bread, and then we went over to Stash, a Place for Yarn, which is my yarn store in St. Pete. And Brooke was there from Sarasota, and Melanie, who drove all the way from St. Augustine with your daughter. I'm not going to say your daughter's name. I don't know if you want that out on the internet. But I had the best time. So we ate at Panera Bread, we stayed there and crocheted for a little while, and then we went to Stash, and Stash of course has like couches and chairs to sit on and this like lovely little room. So we stayed there with some other people that were already there knitting and crocheting. So we just like got together, had a wonderful time chatting. It was so, so great to meet you. I will be hosting another meetup, probably not until the beginning of the year, because it's gonna be a crazy few months coming up, but it was a blast. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Brooke, for coming out. It was wonderful to meet you. I had the best time. Melanie gifted me the most amazing thing, and I haven't touched it. I wonder if I could make the puppy love shawl out of this. Oh my gosh. The striping would be different, but she gave me a yarn cake. Now, if you can see the label, it's called Crochet Disarray. This is a yarn cake that she made on like a jumbo ball winder. It's 80% acrylic, 20% wool yarn, approximately 760 yards. So this is like 3 balls of yarn, y'all. And look at this. That's amazing. So she is actually going to be opening a shop soon. It's not ready to open yet, but I will tell you when this opens because I 100% support this. One of the things that she wants to do is make these giant cakes with 100% cotton yarn, which I haven't really seen anyone do. Like you can see maybe Karen cakes a little bit, but definitely not a giant cake and definitely not like 100%. So I will tell you when her shop opens because I 100% support this. I think this is fantastic. And this is basically like a prototype. Like she just gave this to me because she's so sweet. And I have been hoarding it. Like I put it in the bed in the spare bedroom and I go in there and that's where my yarn stash is. And I just look at it and I'm like, oh, like these colors are so pretty. So thank you so much, Melanie. This is fabulous. I might make, let's see. Let me see how much yarn the puppy love shawl takes. 3 balls. So I wonder, I'm a little concerned about the striping, but I don't know. I may use this to make the puppy love shawl. We'll see. If not, I'll definitely make something with it. And then the other thing I bought is 2 beautiful skeins of yarn. There's a lady, I guess, who is a regular customer of our local yarn store stash, and she had some like medical bills or something to pay for. And so she would destashed a bunch of yarn, and Kristen, the owner of Stash, put price tags on it, and then like she got part of the money and I think Stash got part of the money. So when I was there, I picked up these 2 skeins and I saw this one first and I was like, oh, it's so pretty, but it was by itself and I was like, no, not in the budget, right? But then in another cube, I saw this one and it's the same yarn and they go together so perfectly and I could not leave them there because there's 2 of them and they were only $12 each, which if you were to buy these originally, they would be like 25, 30 bucks each. So for $24, I got these beautiful, beautiful skeins of fingering weight yarn. It's called Ella Ray Lace Merino. So you get 100 grams for 460 yards. It's 100% superwash. Actually, I don't know if it's, oh yeah, machine washable. 100% superwash merino made in Italy. And it does not say the color. This says color number 2, and this one is color number 132. So I don't know what those are. I'm sure they were in her stash for quite a while, but this has to be a shawl, right? Oh my gosh, they're so pretty. And it just filled my heart with joy to be able to support that as well and like get this lovely patron some money for her D-stash. So that was beautiful. That's all the acquisitions that I have. And I feel like I've been talking forever. So this is going to be a long podcast. I said that at the beginning. But let me just give you a quick life update of what has been happening. Why I could not podcast last week. So you will remember last time or the time before I said that our air conditioner went out for one day and I didn't want to crochet at all because it was so hot. It's been limping along for some time now. And it's a 20-year-old air conditioner. Like, it shouldn't have lasted this long, probably. But we were really, really hoping that it was going to last until January. And we could save up some money to replace it. So it's been, like, freezing, and we had to defrost it. So Friday last week, which is normally my podcast day on Fridays, I came home from working out, and it was frozen solid, like a solid block of ice inside the air handler, which it has done before. So I got out the hairdryer, and I got out a miniature blowtorch, and I spent like 2 hours defrosting it. However, once it was defrosted, it would not turn back on. Luckily, we already had someone coming out to do like a maintenance on it, to like clean out the leaves from the air conditioner outside and like test the lines and stuff. So that was like 3 hours after I had finished cleaning it out, defrosting it. So he came out and he was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, it's not working, and it's only been off for a couple hours. But so basically the fuse box had to be replaced, and the coil, like, it was super corroded and blah blah blah. So he was like, we can totally fix it, but you're not gonna like it because it's gonna cost like $2,500. So you might as well just buy a new air conditioner. And I'm like, yes, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on an air conditioner that is 20 years old. That's ridiculous. We knew it was going to die at some point. I was just really hoping that it would last a little bit longer, but it's been like really struggling. It's like we have a Nest thermostat that turns it up when we're not here. And then for it to cool back down at night, it would take until like midnight or 2 a.m. before it would get down to a reasonable temperature again. So basically, we got a new air conditioner. So that was Friday, so I didn't podcast because the whole day I spent defrosting the air conditioner and then dealing with the guy who was here to fix the air conditioner, which couldn't be fixed. So then we had to buy a new one, and they originally said they wouldn't be able to come out until Tuesday because it was Labor Day weekend, and we were talking to them at like 3 p.m. on a Friday. But the company actually worked it out where they replaced it the next day, which I am super, super happy with the company and their customer service, etc. But they came out and they had to replace everything. The conditioner outside, the air handler inside, they had to redo some of the wiring. Like, I don't know what these people were doing in the house before we moved in, but like, so this is what it's supposed to be. The air conditioner outside is supposed to be hooked up to a breaker. The air handler inside in your hall closet is supposed to be hooked up to another breaker. But both of them were hooked up to 2 breakers. So we could never figure out like what turned off the air conditioner and what didn't, because they both were attached to 2 separate breakers. So that gave the people a headache. They had to do some rewiring and they kept running into problems. So it took 8 hours on Saturday for them to replace the air conditioner, which I'm just so appreciative that they came out at all. Like, they didn't have to. They could have said, no, we have a long weekend and we don't want to work. But they came out and they replaced it, and they were here all day. And when they left, it was 87 degrees in the house, and I had been home all day, like, kind of, you don't want like just people working in your house when you're not there. So I was home all day, and it was so hot. And the night before, even though it had rained the night before, like, it was so warm in the house. So we didn't sleep at all. Like, I literally just like laid in front of the fan, like, it's so hot. So, and it did cool off though. And this air conditioner works. I didn't realize how poorly our other air conditioner was working until we have this one now. Like, it is cold air and it cools down quickly. And so I hope that it'll make a difference on our electric bill. It's not going to make a difference for the entire amount of the air conditioner. But that is why I did not podcast last week, because Friday I dealt with that all day. Saturday they were here banging around, and for 8 hours they did that. And then Sunday I was exhausted and I just did not have the energy to podcast. So I thought about doing it on Monday, and then I was like, you know what, there's no way. I'm just gonna have to push it off a week. So I apologize that it's been 3 weeks, but sometimes life happens. And it just, you can't help it. So anyways, it's cold in here, and I know that like some of you in countries or places that don't have air are like laughing at me like, oh, we don't have air and we're fine. I clearly cannot handle it. Like, in Florida, man, it is too hot. It's like 90, it was 87 degrees in the house. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that is warm, and I can't sleep when it's that warm, and I certainly don't want to crochet. So we have a new air conditioner. There goes my yarn budget for the next ever till it's paid off. But that's what's been going on. So I think that's probably, I should probably wrap it up because I've been talking for ages and ages. So please leave me a comment down below and tell me if you are going to participate in the Nerd Along. And what you're going to make if you know. You don't have to know right away. We've got plenty of time until Thanksgiving. But if you're going to participate, let me know. I would love, love, love for you guys to participate in the Nerd Along. You can make anything that you want. If you're not going to participate in the Nerd Along, leave a comment below. Let me know what you're working on. If you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. That helps me to know that I'm putting out content that you guys like and want to see more of. And if you'd like to be kept up to date on any future videos that I upload to this channel, do hit the subscribe button down below and it will notify you. Well, it'll show up in your subscription page, but if you hit the little bell on the subscribe button, then it will notify you every time I upload a new episode. So I'm going to sign off here. My throat hurts. I feel like I've been talking a ton. I hope you are all having a wonderful start to your September, and that if you're in somewhere where it's like starting to be fall, that you can pull out some wool to wear. And I will be back in 2 weeks with a new pattern release and more crochet. So until I see you then, happy crafting. I hope you have the most wonderful 2 weeks.